What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. Alright soldiers, in today's video we're going to be doing the Drragoncraft reveals for set 8. I've been hearing talk about some Disdain support being in the set, so I'm very excited to look at these new cards. And of course, without delay, let's start with our first card, Dragon Empress Otah. So she's a 4-cost 2/4, and during your turn, whenever another Drragoncraft follower is put into your cemetery from your field, select the enemy leader or enemy follower on the field and deal it 1 damage. And then when she comes into play, fanfare, you summon an Otah Vanguard token, and if Overflow is active for you, you summon 3 instead. Alright, first before we get into the ability, I'm liking the fact that Otah is now in Drragoncraft for the transfer for the Alterchaotica. But looking at Otah's ability, so anytime a Drragoncraft follower is going to be put into the cemetery from the field, you can go ahead and select the enemy leader or follower on the field and deal 1 damage. And this sounds like a familiar ability if you guys already know what PDK does. So if you're playing followers, it's going to be nice to ping them, but also using those Otah Vanguard tokens while used up with PDK is going to be pretty nice too, because you're going to get double ping effects. Alright, and we have our new token, Otah Vanguard, so it's a 1-cost 2/1 with Rush. So this is really going to help out with Otah's ability of swinging into a follower while having this Otah's Vanguard out and getting that proc ability. Alright, so forgive me if I say this incorrectly. I think it's Azi Daka, but I'm just going to call it Azi for short. So 6-cost 5/6, you can evolve it for 2, but when it comes into play, you turn 3 face down evolved followers in your evolved deck face up, you select the enemy follower on the field and destroy it. Alright, so this is a bit of a head scratcher ability. Alright, so one thing is that you're not going to be using every single evolved card in your deck unless you're having a really grindy match against someone. But most of the time, when you get to maybe like 4 or 5 cards in your evolved deck, we have 10, so you can use at least 3 extra cards to turn face up for this ability to go ahead and destroy a follower. So checking out his evolve ability might actually help with the rest of this. Alright, and we have Azi evolve, so he turns into a 7/8 and he has Storm. When he swings strike, if there are at least 5 face-up evolve followers in your evolved deck, give your leader +3 defense. And if there are at least 8, deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. So yes, a good endgame card for Dragon, especially in the terms of a 3-headed dragon itself, Azi. So not only do you get to swing for a total of 10 damage if you have at least 8 face-up cards in your evolved deck, and then you can also heal for 3 as well, but this card also has Storm. Alright, and next up we have Anor Rose, so she's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve for 1, and when she comes into play, fanfare, if Overflow is active for you, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you may reveal a Dragon new card from among them and add it to your hand. Put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Alright, so you remember when I said something about PDK when I was talking about Otah? Well, PDK is definitely going to enjoy a card like this, because you're going to be filling up your deck with Dragon followers, and most of the Dragon followers are like 3 or less, and those are the ones that you really want to play in the PDK build. So looking at the top 3 while also, getting into the Overflow to get this ability will be very nice to go ahead and just replace the card, and then also, doing PDK's effects while also doing Otah's effects if you need to. Alright, looking at the Anor Rose evolve, so she turns to a 3/3, but on evolve you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. So like I said with Otah, it's going to be pretty interesting to play this card and then being an Overflow and replacing the card that you're putting down, and then being able to take care of a 5 defense follower while at it too, and then dealing damage to your enemy leader as long as Otah is on the field. Alright, next up we have Ora Boro, so he's a 7-cost 8/4. When he comes into play, you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 5 damage and give your leader +5 defense. And then last words, when he dies, you discard 2 cards and you put this card into your EX area. Just a reminder that the last words is optional, but I think this would be a pretty nice card to be putting into the Natura deck just because you're going to be discarding a whole bunch of cards anyways. So discarding Naturian cards to go ahead and put this card back into your EX area so it's not going to count for your Naturian things is going to be pretty decent. Alright, next up we have Power Forward, so it's a 1-cost spell. You select the enemy follower on the field and then follower on your field or in your EX area and deal X damage to the enemy follower. X equals the attack of the follower on your field or in your EX area. So when you get into those bigger cards playing Drragoncraft and whatnot, you're going to be playing those big body cards, and the one thing that Drragoncraft, I wouldn't say kind of lacks in, is not removal, but having a card like this to where, you're swinging with Forte and then you might have a couple of extra play points afterwards because you have to really commit your full turn into Forte sometimes. Well, you can swing with Forte and now take care of a card that's on the field. Alrighty, next up we have Ilios Loyal Dragoon, so he's a 3-cost 2/4. You can evolve him for 3 and he has Ward, and when this follower takes damage, give it and your leader +1 defense. Alright, so the ability on this is a little confusing to me as I'm reading it. So I think this follower is technically a 2/5, because as soon as it takes damage, you need to hit it for at least one more, or if you don't kill it, it's going to get one defense. But as long as this is going to take damage, you are for sure going to get at least one defense to your leader. It's just a little confusing in terms of damage calculation. Alright, and then we have the Loyal Dragoon evolve, so he turns into a 4/6, so he has Storm and Ward this time. Whenever this follower takes damage, you give it and your leader +1 defense. So paying that extra 3 is going to be pretty worth just to go ahead and swing for 4 and have a Ward, and your opponent's going to have a pretty beefy card to deal with unless they have the hard removal. And then next up we have Dragon Soul Princess, so she's a 3-cost 3/3, and when she comes into play, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Wurmkin follower from among them and put it into your EX area, and if Overflow is active for you, for the rest of this turn, it costs 3 less to play. Put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Alright, so it looks like this is going to be the go-to card that you get off of Anor Rose with the Overflow ability, and then also playing this in tempo with the Anor Rose while being an Overflow, because you have those 7 play points. You can go ahead and get a Wurmkin follower, put it into the EX area, and with all those extra play points that you have, you can use Power Forge, or you can go ahead and play that card in your EX area. Alright, next up we have Vile Violet Dragon, so it's a 4-cost 4/4, and once during each of your turns when this follower takes damage, draw 2 cards. When it comes into play Fanfare, if Overflow is active for you, give this follower +1/+1 and Rush. Alright, so it looks like this is one of the Wurmkin followers you can get off of the top 5 with the Princess. So putting this and making this a 1-cost with Rush that allows you to draw 2 is like a pretty nutty ability. Alright, and we have Zealot of Disdain, so she's a 2-cost 2/2, and during your turn when this follower takes damage from an effect, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader. And when she comes into play, you deal 1 damage to each follower on the field. Alright, so this is some mighty support for the deck. So playing this off of Galmu is going to burn you for a total of 4, I believe. It's been a minute since I played against Disdain, but the burn is just so good in this deck. And then on top of that, if you already have Disdain followers on the field already, you're going to be proccing their abilities because you're going to be dealing 1 to everybody on the field. Alright, and moving on, we have Righteous Dragoon, so it's a 3-cost 3/4, and when it comes into play, if Overflow is active for you, choose one of the following. You can either 1, select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 4 damage, or 2, deal 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field. Alright, so if you're an Overflow, essentially you can choose between dealing with 1 follower or lessening all of the other followers on the field. Alright, and then we have Geore. So Geore is a 6-cost 4/6. You can evolve for 1, and when he comes into play, you put the top 2 cards of your deck into your cemetery, and if there's a non-Drragoncraft card in your cemetery, give your leader +2 defense and draw a card. Alright, so this is another Wurmkin follower. If you want to put it into your EX area off of the Princess ability, I wouldn't really want to, but you know, it's something you can do. Putting the top 2 cards of your deck into your cemetery is kind of interesting. Just pray that you don't hit anything very useful. But if you're playing something that has Trail of Light in it, and it's just really going to check if there's Trail of Light in your cemetery, not just one of the cards that you milled, just if there's a non-Drragoncraft card in your cemetery, you're going to be healing and then drawing. Right, and looking at the Geore evolve, so he turns into a 5/7, and when he swings, you banish 5 cards in your cemetery and give this follower +2 attack. Alright, so this is a pretty big beefy card, so getting that +2 attack might come up in some situations, but really, it's going to be getting rid of a follower and then your opponent's going to have to deal with it the very next turn. This is a big defense follower. Having a 7/7 on field is no joke. Alright, and then we have Marionette Dragon, so it's a 3-cost 7/7. It has Russian at the start of your end phase, destroy this follower. So that's what makes it fair. I looked at its stats and I was like, whoa, this card being a 3-cost 7/7 is busted, but its own ability kind of, you know, hurts itself by making sure it's not going to swing and be able to swing into someone the very next turn, so it's pretty fair. Alrighty, and lastly, we have Zealot of Disdain, so it's a 1-cost spell, and whenever Galmu Omen of Disdain is put onto your field, banish this card in your cemetery, you select the follower on your field and deal it 1 damage, and then you select the follower on the field and deal it 1 damage. Alright, so this is going to be nice. So you have a 1-cost card that is now going to just be pinging a follower for 1 to go ahead and activating their Disdain effects, and then in the cemetery, you can go ahead and banish this card to ping a follower for its effects, so as soon as you play Galmu, you can ping her so she can evolve for free, and then you can use her abilities on her evolve on other cards. Alright, and then we have Aki as RUR, the evolved version, of course, with this amazing headed dragon card. I pray everyone that wants to pull this card or is in seeking of this card manages to get it by the end of set 8, or, you know, early on in set 8. I hope everyone's pulls are very good. But alright, soldiers, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, look out for the podcast that is coming out on Friday. I'm having a podcast come out on Friday, the first episode. So I hope you guys will be in tune to it and I'll get some massive input from all of you. But alright, soldiers, be safe in whatever you do tonight and be safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. T-R-I-double-N.
Just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do.